Welcome to Monster Monday. So, for Monster Monday, we're doing Monster on Monday. It is 12:07, so it is officially Monday, 7 minutes in. So, here we go, a Monster on Monday. All right. Now, this is from director Brian Bertino, and he recently just did the movie The Dark and the Wicked, which I really enjoyed. He did the found footage film Mockingbird, which I seem to be one of the only people on earth that likes that movie. So I don't know what is up with everyone's dislike with that one, because I feel like it's one of the only found footage films that actually addresses why they would continue to keep filming. He also did The Strangers, which everyone knows. I don't really need to talk about that one. And he's produced a few other films, including what is, almost close to a perfect masterpiece of a film to me at this point, in The Black Coat's Daughter, or aka February, with Emma Roberts. But yeah, so The Monster was a film that I saw when it came out, and I remember that there was a mom and a mom and a daughter that were traveling together, and that they got in like a car wreck, or the car broke down or something, and then the monster was outside the car, and they were in the car the whole movie. That was basically all I had remembered from the film. As I was watching it again, it was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember. Now, I definitely think this is one of those films that could be taken metaphorically, or you could take it just straightforward. And I'll play around with both. I don't think I have a clear cut metaphorical type of answer, symbolisms, or whatever. But as I talk, we'll maybe find some things out about it together, as we always do with these fun little talks. So, all right. The movie starts with our two main characters here, and the mom is super young. I mean, this chick looks in her like late 20s, early 30s. I mean, she looks so young. And this little girl, her daughter, has got to be 10 at least. So this girl must have had this little girl at like 16, 15 years old, which would make sense. I mean, if she had her at 15, she's 10, the girl will be 25. It makes perfect sense. It's just crazy to think that someone can have a 10-year-old at that age. Like, if I had a kid when I was 16, my child would be 22 years old right now. 22. That's... My brain hurts even thinking about that. And that's at 16. I started having sex when I was 15. So 23 say that I knocked up that girl. Boom. Then my head explodes, So, yeah, I mean, at this age, what is your life looking like having a kid at that age? Now, I'm sure probably one or two of you watching might have had a kid that young or pretty damn close. So you can maybe tell me down below your experience with being a super young mom, a teenage mom, somebody in high school pregnant. It's got to be wild, man. I mean, you're so not ready for even the slightest bit of responsibility at that point, let alone bringing in a child. And this is a girl who struggles with alcohol and drugs. She's really badly. The performances here from both are fantastic. That's really what carries this film more than anything, because at the end of the day, this is very much focused on the drama, the family drama. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that my like top tier level horror films are typically family drama centric slow burn horror buildups. That's like cream of the crop. Like lots of drama within the family, or maybe a tight knit group of friends. So of course, like, that's why Hereditary is my favorite film of the decade, because of that very reason. It's very dramatic centric, family drama kind of film. And this is yet again one of those films. And of course, I walked out of this thinking it was pretty great. There, I don't know. We'll get more into it as we get on here. Let's stay focused for once. So, yes, she's a very irresponsible mother. She's going to take her daughter to live with her dad, and she is pretty much convinced she's never going to see her daughter again. She gives her something, and the daughter's just like, "Why are you giving this to me?" And she's like, "You're probably never coming back." She's like, "Don't say that." And as this movie goes on, of course, the question could be, if we're going to go for metaphors, symbolism, whatever, the first question you're going to ask before you see the actual physical beast. Because let me say, if you were watching this movie and up until the monster showed up and you had no idea it was supposed to be a horror movie, no idea that there was supposed to be any horror elements to it at all, up until the monster shows itself, you would think the monster is the mother. So that's an interesting angle to look at it from. Imagine you threw this on at night and it was just on TV and you saw the title The Monster and you're thinking, oh, this could be a horror movie. And then it starts playing out and you see what a monster the mom is to her and you're like, no, the monster's the mom. And then this actual monster shows up and you're like, oh, it's an actual monster. Never mind. But I think that's part of it. It's like the monster is not only this. I just think that the monster is like the monster inside of the mother. Like the demon that she's fighting inside herself. The scene where she's sitting on the porch after digging through the trash can, through the alcohol bottles, and finds like one that has a little bit left in it. She sits there and she tries so hard to fight against it. She's like, just don't do it. What does she say? She says something like, put it down, or I wrote it down somewhere in here. Doesn't matter. Regardless, she's just sitting there like just pleading with herself. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Go inside. Just don't do it. And she's trying her damnedest. Now, I think that unless you are an addictive kind of person that's struggled with something like this, or have had people around you, it's very, very hard to understand why you can't just say no. I've always been curious what drives people and what gets them to go down this path. I don't know if it's something that's passed down, hereditary kind of thing. Speaking of hereditary, or if, of course, there's no one size fits all kind of answer here. I don't think that's how that is. But I am always curious on what people's reasoning is for going down that path. And I think that I don't know like what level of control you have. I drank a lot when I was in my 20s. I mean, a lot. Like 20 drinks, 20 plus drinks a night. No shit. Like out of control. But I'm not really sure I would ever consider myself an alcoholic. Yes, by definition I was. But I never needed it. I just really enjoyed doing it. And it was when I realized that I was replacing my emotions with booze is when I was like, I have a problem and I need to stop this. And it was when I got my DUI and had to spend 10 days in jail that I sat in there and I had some pretty interesting experiences, some funny, some not so funny. But I came out of there like, I don't want to go down this road. I don't want to be these people, because I saw some people in that jail cell that were fucking wrecked. They were detoxing throughout their stay, and it was ugly, man. They were like shaking in the corner and vomiting, and it was brutal. But I came out of there that night, the day that I was let out, and I was just like, I'm done. And I told everybody I was done. And they were just like, yeah, right, whatever. And I was like, no, girls, I'm not partying anymore because I was going to beauty school. It was like 54 girls and me, a terrible combination. And for the first like few months I was there, of course, I was partying. I was sleeping with all of them, you know, just exactly what you would expect from me. And then like I was missing classes and I was fucking up. And it was like, no, I came out here to change my life. I want to go to the beauty school to do this, you know, and you just make that decision. But it's, I always say, I think the difference is with addiction, and this is my personal take. Of course, disagree with me if you'd like, but you have to actually want to do it. You don't, you can't be feeling like you have to do it. Like, oh, you know, like this is fucking up my health. This is fucking up my life. Like everyone expects better of me, this and that. Typically, that's just not a good enough reason. Like I genuinely didn't have any interest in doing it anymore, and so I stopped. And I feel like that's really one of the only ways you can quit truly, is you have to legitimately want to be done with it. Like no, like it genuinely has no interest to me anymore, and I don't want to do it. And then I replaced, you know, one obsession with the other. One of those being film, and one of those being something else, not drugs or drinking or anything. But yeah, I feel bad for her. I do. Now, that being said, my empathy only extends so far in this film because as a parent and as somebody who has struggled, now, granted, I did not drink during the days of my children. I wasn't a shitty drunk when my kids came around, and I didn't have to like have that epiphany later on into their childhood where I was like, I'm drinking too much. I'm fucking up their life, whatever. But as I was getting at, the way she treats her child in this is near unforgivable. Not completely unforgivable. She says things that are fucked up. And she does a couple of things that are fucked up. She doesn't do anything that I don't feel like rehab and lots of like apologies and really, really trying and showing her over an extended period of time couldn't have fixed. Like if her mom got straight up sober and started being like on top of shit, got a better job, really started focusing in on things and was super nice to her, anything I saw in this movie was forgivable. Like it was just, she was a train wreck. And she's, you know, drinking all around her. She's letting her boyfriend talk to her, how she's talking to her, which is absolutely fucking atrocious. And she is, you know, she slaps her when she's trying to hide the drugs from her or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, a script? I don't know what the hell it was. Whatever it was. What did I say, a script? Like a prescription for medication. Because he says something about going to the store to get it. I don't know whatever the hell it is. Maybe it was, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. But she hid something that was going to get them fucked up. And so just like the interaction they have outside in the garage when she's like, I don't want you to go to my play. I don't want you to go to my play. This is like the most heartbreaking scene of the flashbacks. The most heartbreaking scene is probably when the mom sacrifices herself and she's sitting there and crying and like holding her mom, and that's fucking heartbreaking for sure, because I feel like at that time is when they finally like realized that they needed each other. So that's really sad. But the flashback scene where she's yelling at her like, I don't want you to come, and the mom just like says fuck you, and she's like, don't talk to me like that, and the mom just is like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And I think the point of this is showing us the power dynamic of this relationship. Like in any mismatched parenting, like where things are really out of hand, typically with parents, the problem is that the kid is feeling in charge, and that can't be the case. I read this book when my mother of my kids was pregnant. She had me read this parenting book. Oh, it was actually after she had the kid. I'm sorry. I read the What to Expect When You're Expecting book. No, after she had me to read this other book, and it really did help. And it was one of these things where it told me that kids crave leadership and they crave consistency. And you've got to make sure that you assert yourself as, the captain. You got to make sure that you are in charge, that you are a leader, and they feel comfortable, they feel safe. And when you relinquish that power to them, by being irresponsible, by being inconsistent, by just not being a good parent, they feel like they're leaderless, that they're directionless. So they start to fucking, try to be in charge. That's why you can't tell them what to do, because they're like, fuck you, I don't respect you. Like, I'm not going to listen to any of your rules. You can't even fucking be on time. You can't, that's why consistency is so important. You've got to lead by example. And with this mom and this daughter, it's basically the mom, because look at that scene. That scene is a daughter and mother, like, interaction, but completely flipped. And this is a beautiful bit of writing, because this is exactly what happens in a broken relationship like this with a parent and a daughter. She's like, don't talk to me like that, like you would say to a child. And the child's response to that authority that she doesn't want to listen to is to rebel and continue to harp on that very thing that she asked her not to do. And so she's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, to her child. Something a child would do to you. You tell your kid, hey, don't use that kind of language, don't say that. And she's like, fuck, 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 fuck. Like, screw you, I'm going to rebel against this. This is exactly, I mean, it's completely flipped. And even in the movie, when she's in the car with her, she's like, can I have a cigarette? Is it okay? And the kid's like, roll down the window. Like, she's asking permission from her child for things. This isn't a courtesy thing. This is a straight up, I have no authority in this household. I am not a parent. And this comes from her age. This comes from her inexperience. This comes from no help. I mean, she's alone. So the writing in this, between the mom and the kid, is fantastic. It really is, because it very much illustrates the power dynamic of a broken relationship. And I think that's what's so strong about this movie. And all of what I've just said right now, 17 minutes into this fucking review, there is no mention of the monster. The monster is so secondary to this film. Now, I could see people taking that as an ultra negative. Like, oh, I came to see a monster movie. And there's monster stuff in here. There's a pretty big monster scene, a big showdown at the end, and all that stuff. And I think the monster it's practical. It looks really cool. It's unique. But it really is kind of purposeless. It only serves as a secondary antagonist to the story of the mother's broken relationship with her daughter is the main antagonist of the film. That's the real drama of the film. And the monsters is kind of secondary. And as I said, metaphorically going into this, if you want to try to break this down, is like the releasing, kind of breaking away from her mother and freeing herself from this, the tie of her. Like, she kind of ties her down with her selfishness, with her immaturity, with you fucking take your pick. I mean, this chick has nothing together. And so at the end, she lets her mother go, and she, braves the dangers of the world without her parents, and she overcomes it. This is why she goes at the monster, and she's like, I'm not afraid of you. And the monster could be seen as life. Like, I'm not afraid of you. I'm fucking fine now. I can do it without my mother. And she vanquishes that demon, by, lighting it on fire. And then she kind of breaks out of the wilderness, and she can, like, see through the trees. That at this point there's a clearing. Like, it literally clears for her, and she can see the path in front of her. Before, it was cloudy and dark, and and it was dangerous. And then she makes her way out of the wilderness after she's let her mother go, and she's beat the fear of the future, fear of death, fear of everything. She's just like, I'm not afraid of this anymore. I can move on. and I can forgive my mother, because they have that scene where she does kind of forgive her. I want you, I want you. And the mom's just like, I can't come. And you could see this as she's playing this out in her head. Like the mom did drop her off, and she's seeing her, and she has to kill her to let her go in her mind. I mean, you could do anything you want. And that clearing is like her clearing her head of like, I have a future, and it does not involve my mom, and I'm going to be okay. This is what I'm saying. You can take this in this direction. And I think that would be a fantastic direction to think of it in. And if you want to take it more straightforward, as her mom and her really encountered this, or even if you want to take it as they did encounter it too, that's totally fine. You can still do it as a symbolic thing at the end. But regardless, whatever it is, it's super, super well done from an acting and dramatic standpoint. And the horror is pretty good as well. It's not great because it's almost unnecessary. But I still think it's cool. I still like the monster. I still like the scares. I still like the, attacks. There's not much gore. The time spent with the monster and the fight against it is fairly limited. But it's, as I said, because it's so secondary, I could see that being the problem. I'm coming to watch a monster movie. I saw this cover. This cover suggested some scary monster movie, and here we are listening to some family drama. I could see that. But for me, it's just, it works so, so well. Very much looking forward to what Brian Bertino's doing next, for sure. And man, when he attacks that mom, he wrecks her. This poor woman. I mean, she's a bitch for sure up until that point. But man, he just, once he hits her and once he starts scratching into her, biting into her, it's over. She ain't recovering from that. There's no way she's surviving that. She's laying there. And I mean, the mom says to her, you're going to be so much better than me. You'll get past me. And the daughter says to her, this is the saddest part, this is what I'm talking about. The daughter, in reply to all of that stuff, like, you're going to be better than me, you're going to get past me, all this, she just says to her, and this is like wanting to make me cry, because I understand this so well, because I'm going to tell you something right after this that's very important. She says, I just want you. I just want you. It's not about that future. And I, as I've always told people, when it comes to children, not that I'm some fucking expert by any means, but just in my experience. And of course it cuts out right as I'm trying to get to the point. My fucking phone storage. Whatever. Anyways, what I was trying to say is that when it comes to your children and you think that you're going to provide for them, and don't get me wrong, this is a wonderful idea. This is not coming from a bad place. I'm not, downplaying that or making it look like that's a silly thing to think. No. But what I'm trying to say is, like, just people think like, oh, I'm going to provide for my children. I'm going to get them in the best schools. I'm going to get this nice house. I'm going to get, I'm going to give them all these luxuries that I never had. They're going to be so thankful. And then the kid is sad or whatever, and they're like, I don't understand, what the fuck, like, I'm providing for these kids, I'm working day and night to make sure they have a nice roof over their head, they live in a nice neighborhood, that they have all these things, they have all these toys, they have all these nice clothes, they have all these things I didn't have. But I think they're missing the most important thing, that above all else, above fucking toys and a nice school and whatever, above all else, your child wants you, wants your attention, wants your love. You might be in a place with your kid at this point where we're past that, and they've gotten used to not being around you, so maybe they don't want that anymore. But for a very long time, they, from whatever age, 0 to however old, whatever they may say, the reality of it is just like in this, and this is yet another piece of the writing that's so fantastic, is when she sits there and she says to her, I don't even want you to go to my play. Bullshit. 100% bullshit. No matter what your kid says to you, they want you there. Okay? So if your kid's in a basketball game, or if your kid's on a play, or if your kid's whatever your kid is doing, if they say like, oh God, Mom, please don't come, it's gonna be so embarrassing, I don't want you there, they want you there. 100%. They may not even know it, but trust me, in years from now, they'll look back and they'll be like, that was so cool she came, that was so cool he came, whatever. And that's what this movie, yet again, another fantastic element right there. I don't even want you to come. But then throughout the movie, we find out she's laying down with her in the bathroom when she's drunk and curling up next to her, even though the mom promised she would never drink again. And the daughter just doesn't care. She just wants her mom. And that's what she's doing. That's why she's taking the drugs. That's why she's doing what she's doing, is because she just wants her mom. Even though she says, I hate you, I never fucking want to see you again, whatever. This isn't true. She wants her mom to succeed more than anything. No matter how angry they get at each other in this film, or how much shit the mom does to her, says to her, whatever, her daughter in this always wants for her to succeed, for them to be together. It's shown throughout this entire film. There's never one time in this movie where the daughter abandons her, and that's even illustrated at the very end when she says, just run, just leave me. I'm going to do this for you. And I could see people being like, well, I mean, she sacrificed her life and you didn't even run. You didn't even take that time. But that's the point. Like, she can't let her mother go no matter what. She doesn't want to. And it's only in that last moment where she has no other choice. It's too gone. There's no recovery here. Her mother is gone. Her mother is dead to her, metaphorically or not. She has to move on. It's only until then that she can brave the fear. Like, I'm not afraid of you, And it's just so good. I didn't even look at my notes like almost once. That's funny, because I didn't really need to. I really knew. I definitely didn't know what I was gonna say, but I knew I would know what to say as soon as I pressed record. You guys know I don't even think about what I'm gonna say ever. But I did watch this yesterday, and I guess it's been mulling around in my head a little bit, but it's good to talk it out, and I love that. God, she even has a scene where she holds a knife to her mother's throat and is like, just go away. Like, just fucking leave. Like, I hate you. But of course she can't do it. And of course in the next scene she loves her again. But it's just that, like, if you're not going to be a positive in my life, if you're going to be nothing but a negative in my life, get the fuck out of it. I have to admit, I mean, this is a terrible thing to talk about. But I want you guys to understand, like, there are other people out there like this that don't feel like they can talk about these kinds of things because they feel like they're going to be judged. But when I was a kid, I didn't hold a knife to my mother's throat. But I sure as shit, every single fucking time that her and my stepfather left my house, I used to sit there and fucking pray they wouldn't come back. Whatever that meant. Death, I was like, just let them fucking die in a car wreck. I just don't want to see them ever pull up in that driveway again. Your parents can betray you so hard that you genuinely don't want to see them again. And I think that at one point in my life, I just really wanted my parents, especially my mother, to just change. Like, that's, if there was two options on the table, like, they can go away, die, whatever, or, you know what, how about your mom just changes and becomes a good mom, becomes a loving parent, becomes something that you need. Of course I would have picked the other option, of course. But there does come a point where you basically pass the point of no return. And unfortunately, my mother passed that point. And I haven't spoken to her in 8 years now. And I haven't seen her in 16. And she brought this upon herself. But that being said, you only have so long to fix things with your kids. And if you have that moment still, you may not tomorrow. So take it up today. Do what you gotta do. Make things good with your kid. You know? Because I never want to be in that situation. I'm never going to allow myself to be in that situation where my kids haven't spoken to me in years and are like, my dad's a lost cause. I gave up on him. He's just brought nothing but misery to my life. I will not be that parent. Not a fucking chance in hell. It's the whole reason I wanted to have kids. Was because I wanted to prove to myself that not everyone was my mother. So I get this. I get this so wholeheartedly. And, you know, I feel like she got to that point maybe at the end where it was like, I have to let you go. And I did that too. I didn't do it at 10. But I was pretty much done with my parents around like 15, 14, somewhere in that area where I was genuine like, you've gone too far. It's too far gone now. I'm at an age now where I'm an adult for the most part. I don't need your help anymore. I don't need you anymore. And from that point on, I really haven't needed them. And those are 20 years ago now. So, anyways, enough preaching. But yeah. Do I have any... I don't think I have anything else to say. I poured out a lot there. Sorry if this was a downer episode, but I think that these kinds of movies elicit a very emotional response for people who have had similar experiences. But yeah. So yeah, if you've got any questions or anything, you can ask me down below. You don't got to be shy. I'm not really that closed off of a person, as you can see. And yeah, if you haven't seen The Monster, check it out. Otherwise, guys, adios.